You are listening to Feeling Good, a podcast for dentists. I'm Dr. Laura Mock, the life coach for busy dentists. This podcast explores how to feel better in all aspects of our lives so that we can be our best leaders. If you have been feeling stressed about being the owner of your practice and you want to change what you are getting at work and in your personal life, you are in the right place. Well, hello again. I'm Dr. Laura Mock, the leadership coach for busy dentists. And I'm here today for our podcast episode. Thank you for joining me again. I appreciate you being here. And I just wanted to start with a little bit of business. First of all, I have recently finished a free course for female dental practice owners, and it's on how to feel better so that you can lead better and how those two things affect each other. And at the end of the podcast, I'm going to be announcing how you can access your free course. So make sure you stick around. Second is this episode is best listened to with the video. So if you don't have access to YouTube right now and you really want to listen along, you're very welcome to. And if you want to get the most out of it, then you're going to want to go to my YouTube channel, which is the Life Coach for Busy Dentists, Laura Mock. You can search it there as well. In the show notes, I will put actually a link to my YouTube channel so that you can find it there too. And on my website, I post the videos to my podcast, and that's the lifecoachforbusydentist.com. Okay. Third, so this episode is going to involve the subject of gender orientation. So if that's a hot topic for you, or if you don't want your kids to listen to it, then now you've been warned to listen to it later. Okie dokie. So let's go ahead and get started. So some of you may know, some of you may not know that I have a transgender son. And I'm just going to share my screen with you. So those of you who are with me in video will be looking at a picture of my adorable kid. His name is Max, and he is 15 years old. And he came out to me last year. So before that, we knew him as Mimi. His given name is Miriam. And he was born when I was a sophomore in dental school. Actually, it was the first week. It was over Labor Day weekend he was born. And then I took him to class with me for most of that year. And of course, back then we called him Mimi or Miriam. And then last year he came and told me that he was transgender and that he wanted to be known as Max and use the male pronouns. And so that is what we do. I have not really had a problem with that. I maybe would have years in the past, but prior to him coming out to me, I had a change of heart with my attitudes about gender orientation. So it has been very easy for me to support him in every way that he needs or wants. Okay, so that's a little backstory piece of information that I need you to know before I tell you this story. So I have owned the same practice for about 12 or maybe almost 13 years now. And we're in a town in the Midwest, about 200,000 people. Then our little town that's next to the bigger town has maybe 30,000. And it's a fairly conservative town, but everyone is very family oriented and very full of love for each other. And, you know, I have this relationship with my patients since I've been their dentist for so long. It's, you know, how are the kids? And oh my gosh, they're getting so big. And, you know, that sort of conversation that I have so many times a day. I'm sure many of you have the same thing. So I have this one patient who's just a lovely, lovely woman and just very well dressed, very smart. She's a business owner in town, and she has a wonderful family that also comes to see us. And she learned recently about me having a transgender son. And we are friends on Facebook, and she got on to Facebook the other day and tagged me in a video that she wanted me to watch. So, of course, most of you are familiar with how tagging works on Facebook, but if you are not a Facebook person, it basically means that everyone can see that I'm friends with on Facebook, that she is showing me this video. And the crux of the video was that basically he was not approving of the way I'm raising my son. That I should reconsider the fact that I've been supporting him with his transgender identity. And as you can imagine, I had a lot of really strong feelings as soon as I saw that pop up on my social media. I mean, at first I was surprised, and then after that I felt angry or probably indignant, kind of like, how dare you tell me how to raise my child? And I imagined all of these different things that I could do to retaliate, because I basically went into mama bear mode. So I was picturing, sending a letter telling her how wrong she was, and maybe dismissing her from the practice and the rest of her family too, maybe putting up a bunch of pro-LGBTQ paraphernalia all around my practice, which up until now has been a fairly neutral place. I mean, when we have several transgender kids who come to see us, and we use the pronoun that they ask for and things like that. But, it's not like a place where I'm putting up a social or political stances, because I'm there to take care of people's teeth, right? And if they treat me the way I want to be treated as their dentist, then I can be their dentist no matter what they believe. So anyway, before I took a lot of actions, I decided to just pause and use the coaching tools that I have learned over the past several years to really look at how I wanted to show up in this situation, who I really wanted to be, and really look at basically the source of my feelings that I have right now, and also how do I really want to be for this situation. I mean, because I could be, mama bear, or I could be the dentist who just wants everybody to love each other or whatever, I really decided to sit down and think about it. And so what I'm going to do for the rest of this podcast episode is I'm going to teach you how I went through this process, which is one of the reasons why you might want to watch this on video, because I'm going to use some charts. And the first chart that I'm going to use is right behind me. I'll step to the side so you can see it a little bit better. This is basically, these words represent what I call, and I have been taught to call, the model. The model was developed by my coaching guru, and her name is Brooke Castillo. And if you want to listen to more of her information, I suggest listening to her podcast, which is called The Life Coach School Podcast. Okay. So the model is basically, it's a system for analyzing any situation, any problem, or anything good as well, if you really want to look at how it's all happening. And it's also a way for you to help yourself create what you actually want in your life. And there are different components to the model. Okay, so the first one is circumstance. And that just means the circumstance is the neutral facts around what's happening right now. So when we're describing something in a circumstance, we're not using qualifiers or superlatives. We're saying it like an attorney in a court of law would say it. And then the next one is thoughts. So we have the circumstances. Those are the things that are actually happening. And then our brain takes in all that data and makes an interpretation of what's happening, and those are our thoughts. Those are the sentences in our mind. And if you think about it, all of us are having thousands of thoughts every day. This is just how our brain processes the information. And then our thoughts lead to emotions. So our emotions are the feelings that we have, or the physical vibrations in our body that come from the thoughts that we have. And then our emotions lead to us taking action. This is why we take any action we do, is because of the feeling that we're having. And then our actions create our life, or the results is what it's called in the model, is basically what are you creating when you take those actions? Those are your results. So the first thing that I did when I decided I wanted to make sure I was showing up the way I wanted to, was I made a model of how I was feeling about the situation. So I'm just going to turn this page and show you what I already wrote out. And you can do this too if you have something that's happening to you. You sit down and write out the different components of the model and then just fill in the blanks. So when I'm lazy, so circumstance, I abbreviated as C, okay? And I tried to be as neutral as I could to describe what happened. So I didn't say she gave me unsolicited advice or she doesn't agree with me. I put patient gives advice on, and then SM stands for social media. So she got on social media and she gave me advice. And that's all I want to put for the circumstance, no qualifiers, okay? And then I had a thought. Of course, I had lots of thoughts, but I just chose one that kind of represents basically what I was feeling. And my thought that I put was, how dare she? How dare she tell me how to raise my child, right? I'm sure many of you might have thought the exact same thing. And I had a lot of different feelings that I could choose from this thought, but I just closed my eyes and really thought about what is the main feeling that I felt after I thought, how dare she? And I chose indignant, okay? So when someone is feeling indignant, they're going to act in certain ways that represent that indignant emotion, right? And of course, I stopped at this point. When I was feeling indignant, I recognized that maybe I didn't want to feel indignant. But I made up in the action line some things that maybe I would have done had I stayed in the indignant feeling, okay? So I've got, basically, this is what I really wanted to do was shoot back on social media. Hey, I don't know why you think it's appropriate right now for you to be telling me, your dentist, how to raise my transgender son, but try walking a day in my, all that stuff. I was like making the sentences ready to shoot back to her. And then another thing that I might do when I'm feeling indignant is complain to others. And they might be people that know the patient or people that don't know the patient, but I'm feeling indignant and I want everybody else to feel indignant with me, right? So that's one of the things I put. And then I wrote the word dismiss because I was fantasizing about dismissing the patient and maybe the entire family because I'm like, I don't know that I really want to treat someone that I feel indignant about. I mean, we all have to trust each other and like each other, right? So those were some of the actions that I chose that could come from this indignant feeling. But what's really interesting, and this is why I really started to think about it, is that if I take those actions, then I have not represented myself the way I want. And let me explain that a little bit more, because you might be thinking, but you protected your son. And I agree, these would be things that I would go for if that was my ultimate goal, was to be the mama bear for my son. But I have some qualifiers for that. And the first one is that Max is transgender, which means Max has the opportunity to learn to speak up for himself. And that's always going to be something that he is going to carry. That's a burden that he's going to have just because he is transgender, just a reality of life. And I can be there as his mom and sort of pave the way for forever. But I'm okay with letting Max learn how to do that for himself. And the other thing is, this was really important to me. There was a time in my life when I believed that anything that was on the LGBTQ spectrum was immoral or like morally wrong. And over time, there were people in my life that I came into contact with who showed me through love and example that maybe I was mistaken. And over time, I realized that I was the one who was wrong. And it wasn't people who came up and attacked me or said, you're the wrong one, Laura, you should be accepting of us. It was people that just loved me and understood that it wasn't time yet for me to understand what they understand, if that makes sense. And I thought about who I wanted to be in this situation. And this gets us to our next model. So I'm going to turn the page. I decided that in this situation, and any situation involving my transgender son that I would like to be that bridge person for other people. And I would like to show love instead of defensiveness. I already know that I accept Max, and I already know he's perfect just the way he is. And I don't have to prove that to other people, but I can use opportunities like this to show people over time. Hopefully they will see that they have had a closed mind. And the best way to do that is to show love, right? So what I did was I made a new model, and actually ignore the stuff in the middle for a minute because I don't have time while I'm making videos to write all this. The circumstance is the same, right? The patient gives advice on social media. I'm not going to change that in my second model, but what I'm going to do in this model is I'm going to create something new that is sort of like my purpose or my intention. So when you're making an intentional model, you start at the top with the same exact one, and then you go down to the result. And I asked myself who I actually want to be. What do I want to create in this situation? And I put, I show love. I am a bridge for future change of heart. And that's what I decided. It took me a couple of minutes to really think about how I wanted to be, but that's what I decided. And I will give you guys a hint. It's always best to feel love. No matter what situation, if we want to choose love, love is the best feeling to feel. So we might as well be choosing it a lot. Okay? So then I asked myself, if this is my goal, is to show love and be a bridge, then how do I need to act in order to accomplish that goal? And this is what I wrote. First of all, I wrote that I need to draw a boundary. And a boundary can totally be drawn in love. So it might be something like, hey, patient, I appreciate your concern, but I'm not asking for input as to how to raise my child anymore. So if you can do okay with that, then I will continue to be your dentist. And if you continue to try to give me advice on how to raise my child, then I won't be able to be your dentist anymore. And I can totally say that with love because I'm saying something that's protecting me, right? And then I'm not telling her how to act. I'm telling her, if you act like this, then I'm gonna do X, Y, or Z, okay? And then I decided that I already treat many patients who have different beliefs. So just because she has a different opinion about gender identity doesn't mean that I can't show her love or do a good job being her dentist. So I decided to treat her just like I treat any other patient, which is I always treat my patients with compassion and respect. And I decided that I would not go through with my my fantasy of dismissing the patient unless, of course, she goes across the boundary that I draw with her. And then, of course, I wrote be a bridge, which that's what I would like. I would like for more people to feel comfortable with my son and other people like my son so that we can all just get along. Like, oh, shoot, I forgot his name. Never mind. Can we all just get along? This is Rodney something, right? From the riots in LA. Anyway, I can't. Rodney King. I remembered it while I was making a video. Look at that. Anyway, okay, so love can be a bridge, right? Rodney King. Okay. And then I asked myself what I needed to feel in order to take these actions, and I already knew the answer. The answer is love. I can love this person, I can love her family, and I can love my son, and that will help me to take these actions. And the really interesting thing is that our feelings come from our thoughts. So if I want to change from indignant to love, then I have to dismiss the thought, how dare she? And I have to come up with a thought that generates the love feeling so that I can take the actions that I want. And what I chose was, I have been in her shoes, and I have. So I can love my former self. I can understand where I was coming from, and I can love her, and I can understand where she's coming from now. And if I start to find myself going back to the indignant feeling, it means that I'm having some of those thoughts again. And I need to check myself and say literally to myself, I've been in her shoes. I know where she's coming from. I understand. So that is how I used the model to help myself plan to show love and be a bridge for future change. And the interesting thing about the model is that we can use it in any situation, and that includes dentistry. And I have to say, out of all the different things that I've learned from coaches and consultants and experts in the industry, this model has helped me more than anything. It helps me understand myself and how I'm feeling about my practice. It helps me understand my team members, and it helps me understand my patients, and it helps me intentionally create what I'm going for with my practice. So that is what I have for you today. Now, if you really like this idea of using the model to help you lead your practice, this is essentially what my free course is on. So I encourage you to check out my website. All you have to do is go to the lifecoachforbusydentist.com and then scroll to the bottom of the first page, and it says, get my free workbook. You just click on that and you'll be downloading it within seconds from then. And then you can start looking at your own mind and your own sentences that you're making and your feelings and actions and results. So that is all I have for you today, ladies. I hope that everyone is having a wonderful week. We're still in the middle of this COVID stuff. Please reach out to me if you think you need any help, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Feeling Good, a podcast for dentists. To download my free workbook on how better leadership starts with your feelings, go to my website, thelifecoachforbusydentist.com, and click on Get Free Help.